forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If I may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock. We're on a mission. Each one of us shares our own vision. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me. When I was on the yard, I went real hard. While I patrolled the streets, all the G's on me.
All right. Your host, Gabe Morales, Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians. Since we got the preliminaries out of the way at the beginning of the last video, hopefully it's smooth sailing here on out. We will pick up where we left off with the A last names of Nuestra Familia members over the approximately last 60 years. I show a Anthony, a.k.a. Slick Rick Aguilera out of Richmond. He had a J number of 44256 and was Nuestra Raza up until 1997 when they were disbanded. I show a Michael, a.k.a. Big Mike Aguilera out of Santa Rosa. He had a K number of 28843. I show that he was made Northern Structure in the early 1990s and paroled in 2006. There was a Rodolfo, a.k.a. Pata Aguilera out of Tulare County. He had a K number of 16286. And I show was Northern Structure in the late 1990s, but paroled in 2012. There was Crazy Lawrence Aguirre. I'm not sure where he's from, but he had an E number of 88307. I show he was Northern Structure by sometime in the late 1990s and was housed at Pelican Bay SHU in 2012. There was Thomas Solo Aguirre from Visalia. I remember this guy very well because he was both Northern Structure and Texas Syndicate, one of the few that were left at that time. I recall him being a big dope dealer on the yard. I encountered him at C facility in New Folsom around 1990, and he had C number 76116. There was Alex Conejo Agundes from San Ho. He had a B number of 93683. He did time in the Youth Authority in 1973, and then was convicted of several robberies in 1978, whereby he was given B number 78208. He was very active in the NF, and I believe may have even committed a homicide in 1995 because he came back with the E number 63008. There was Russell, a.k.a. Wadi Alamandares, who was out of Stockton. He had a C number of 30712, which he got for a robbery brief in 1980 in Santa Clara County. I believe he did time at Vacaville in 1982, but paroled in 1984. He came back on violations for some robberies he was convicted of in 1984 and went to San Quentin. He then was in and out of the system for many years. There's a Daniel, a.k.a. Little Man, Alas, from San Fran. He had a P number, 96527. I show that he was Northern Structure in 2004. I believe he was housed at Lancaster in 2012. And Alas was housed at Mule Creek State Prison in 2023. There's Pedro, a.k.a. Junior Alvarez Mendez. I'm not sure what city he was from, but he had a P number of 44656. I'm pretty sure he had a B or C number because I showed that he was NF in 1980. There was Lawrence, a.k.a. Bouncer Albanez from Hanford. He had a J number, 89877. I show that he was in Northern Structure at Wasco State Prison as a regimental commander. There was Philip, a.k.a. Güero Albaran out of San Fran. He had a B number of 55245. and I show was NF in the mid-70s, but paroled in April of 1976. There was Carlos, a.k.a. Charlie Brown, a.k.a. Charlie Tuna, Alcala from Salas. He got swooped up in that big RICO case, and I believe was housed at Santa Rita with Floyd Snell. I believe his MO was selling meth, for which he got about 12 years on a conviction in the year 2000, and sent to the feds under BOP number 99479-011. I believe he was housed at Atwater in 2003, in Allenwood in 2006, then was released in 2009. There was Luis, a.k.a. Wino, a.k.a. Diablo Alcala, out of San Juan. I show he had a D number of 97336, and I remember this guy from Sea Yard and New Folsom in 1991, whereby he was at least a Northern Structure associate. I then show he got popped for dope in 2000 and was housed at San Quentin, and was only validated as an NS associate in 2009. There was James Pajaro, which means bird, Alvarez from San Juan. He had a B number of 6664. And I show was NF in the early 70s. He then paroled and came back under C number 70913, but I'm unsure of his current whereabouts. There's Mario, aka Baby Huesos Alderete, whose whole family was in the mix. I show that he did YA time in 1990 and then entered the adult system in 1993 under H number 33779. He then paroled in 1996, but came back with a K number of 96722. And I show was housed in Avenal in 2012. There was Michael Demon Alderete, who our first vice president of ILJA, Rick Cowboy Hendel, dealt with at the Santa Clara County Jail in San Jose. He had a T number of 93700 and was Northern Structure in the late 1990s and was considered a big dope dealer. There is Michael Little Huesos Alderete. He had a D number of 422091 and was heavily involved in the NF, but I believe refused to do a hit on Ezekiel Lopez. There was Oscar Big Huesos Alderete. I have an old document from the California Prison Gang Task Force on a bust at Big Huesos' house, whereby recent State General Conejo Perez was at his house where they were dealing dope. Big Huesos had a B number of 43253 and was heavily involved in NF politics since the early 70s. But he was not validated until 1979. He paroled in 1981, but then was popped on some 187s in 1984, whereby he was given D number 39387. Big Huesos was part of the Babo Sosa car and rode with Ezekiel Lopez. Like I said, they were trying to hit Conejo Lopez, who was a right-hand man of Black Bob Vasquez. There was Frank Pancho Alejandres out of Fresno. He had a D number of 6693 and was a well-known West Familia member and the brother of Barrios Unidos founder Nene Alejandres. Pancho was considered to be a captain while he was housed at Pelican Bay, and I understand was a pretty decent artist, but eventually decided to throw in the towel. He is out now, and hopefully he's having some good times with his brother, and hopefully talking to youngsters out of getting into the gang lifestyle. There was an Arthur, a.k.a. Tudi Alfaro, out of San Juan. He had a C number of 96042. I show he was Northern Structure by at least 1990. There was Jose, a.k.a. Jojo Alfaro, out of Gilas. I showed that he was involved in the homicide of Jerry Blanco in Stockton, which was a major case that was brought up during the 1980s RICO trial. I actually interviewed a person at the King County Jail in Seattle who was present at the house when Blanco was killed in Stockton on December 18, 1976. There was Manuel Fearless Alfaro out of Gilas. He had a C number of 67561, and I show was NF in the late 70s. There was Mario Kung Fu Alfaro out of Chiques. I show he was an NF associate in the mid-70s and was made NF shortly after that, but dropped out. There was a Jeffrey Allen out of Stockton. I showed that he was a Northern Structure / NF associate around 2001 and was involved in counterfeiting. So he was sent to the feds under BOP number 13302-097. My understanding is that he was being extorted by NF informant Lizard, aka Acheli Hernandez. I'm not sure if that's one of the incidents where Lizard was going rogue or not, but there's a lot of controversy over him that I'll get more into when I get to his name. There's a Joe, aka Jojo Almanza from Chiques. He had a B number of 45762, and I show was NF in the mid-70s, but paroled in January of 1976. There was Rudy, aka Fritos Almanza from Sacra. He had a C number of 43759 and was validated as NF by 1990, but I believe was active in the 1980s. There was Anthony A.K. Tone Almeida out of Woodlake. He had a P number of 42651, and I show it was Northern Structure at Corcoran Shoe. There was Valentino A.K. Pelucas Altamirano out of Oakland. He had a B number of 64104 and was considered NF in the late 1970s and was validated in 1979. He did a lot of time at Pelican Bay Shoe, where he was considered to be an NF captain. I show a Christopher A.K. Joker Alvarez, who's out of Eastside San Juan. He did time in the Youth Authority in 1987 and paroled in 1992. He then was popped for dope in 1997, got out and got popped again, and did time in and out of jail and prison. There's an Eric A.K. Chucky Alvarez out of Visalia. He had a G number, as in George, 61886, and hit CDC in 2009. I believe he did some time at Corcoran and was housed at High Desert State Prison in 2021, but I believe has since been released from custody. There was a Frank Bubba Alvarez out of Sacra, who I show at least at one time was Nuestra Familia. I believe he had a B number of 90610. There was a Jose Flojo Alvarez out of Visa. He was a very active dope dealer, as well as Northern Structure member in the early 90s. I then show that he did some federal time under BOP number 81960-080. There was a Jose Angel, a.k.a. Lowdown, a.k.a. Chango Alvarez from Salas. He had a D number of 20945, and I show was Northern Structure in the early 90s, but was ordered to be murdered by the NF in 1997, which was carried out by Rico Smiley Garcia. That was just one of the cases that sent him to the federal BOP on a Rico case. There was Michael, a.k.a. Mikio Alvarez, out of Fresno. As you can see here, he has a big Familiano tattoo on the front of his throat. He was convicted of a robbery in 1986 and given D number 323845. He did some time at Corcoran after it opened and eventually was released, but got popped on a bank robbery in 2003. He then got off of that, but re-entered and entered the BOP system under number 61071-097. He then was released by 2005, but re-entered the BOP system and was housed at Coleman in 2008 and Lewisburg in 2012, and has been housed in recent years at the ADX in Florence, Colorado. He is scheduled for release in 2025. There was a Pedro Alvarez out of Bakersfield, who was NF in the late 70s under B number 79127, but I believe was not validated until 1991. That's what I'm talking about here. The validation system in CDC or the BOP is not perfect, but that's the information that I usually operate on. There's a Sergio, a.k.a. Spookio Alvarez out of Watsonville. He had a K number of 42605. And I did some time at Pelican Bay Shoe from at least 2002 to 2012, but I show is not currently in custody. There was a Victor Casper Alvarez out of Daly City. I show he was popped on a dope charge in 2003 and did time at the San Mateo County Jail, whereby he was pegged as being a Northern Structure number. He entered CDC under V number, as in Victor, 43148. There was David, a.k.a. Sunshine Alvarez Lugo out of San Juan. He had multiple B numbers and was NF in the early 70s and considered to be an NF secretary, but later dropped out. There was Noe, a.k.a. Gordo Alvarez Martinez out of Modesto. He had C number 97308, and I show was Northern Structure in the early 1990s and was in and out of the joint. There was Arthur Tudi Alvarez Mendez out of Bakersfield. He did time at CRC in 1972, so thus would have had an N number. He then got popped on a burglary in 1974, whereby he was given B number 49874. I show he paroled in 1977, but then got popped for several robberies and drug charges. There was Peter, a.k.a. Sparky Alviar from Salas. He had a K number of 8336. Sparky entered the Youth Authority in 1987, paroled in 1988, got popped for dope in 1995, but then came back with a parole violation in 1996. Under K number 8336. I believe he then got out, but got popped on another dope charge in 1999 and was housed at the Monterey County Jail. There's Miguel, a.k.a. Joker, a.k.a. Boxer Amador out of San Juan. He did time in the Youth Authority in 1980, but paroled in 1982. Then got popped on a burglary charge in 1983, whereby he came into the adult system under C number 62566. He was housed at the California Conservation Center in 1984, whereby he got caught with a shank and was given an additional 2 years. He was involved in the October 1984 riot at Old Folsom Prison, but paroled in 1986. He then returned to the system in 1987 on a burglary charge, but paroled again, was popped on a firearms charge in 1990, and returned again. This guy just couldn't stay out. He was arrested on a theft of motor vehicle in 1992, as well as a dope charge in 1994, where he was housed in the Eureka County Jail. He paroled in July of 1995 and returned several times after that. There was Victor Joker Amador out of San Juan. He was arrested for attempted robbery in 1989 and sent to the Youth Authority. He then got out, but was arrested for burglary in 1990, whereby he was given E number 37255. He paroled in 1991, but had parole violations through the late 90s. He was considered to be at least a Cat 2 Northern Structure member and was validated as such in 1996. He was housed at the Santa Clara County Jail in 1998. He then was popped on a dope charge in 1999 and given T number 5914 and had several parole violations after that. There was a Johnny, a.k.a. Creeper, a.k.a. Devious, a.k.a. Youngster Amaral. I remember this guy very well from C facility in the early 90s. He was one of the younger members of the Hayward Car. He paroled in 1992 and was not validated until the year 2000. He was at San Quentin in 2002, and I did some time in Oregon DOC around 2003. And then there was Larry Sixto Amaro, a.k.a. Paki, out of Salas, Islas Casas. Now, this guy, I could probably do a special video on. He hit the Youth Authority in 1981 and also did 180 time in 1983. He got popped for assault with a deadly weapon in 1986 and was given D number 41576. I had him at New Folsom in 1987. He paroled in 1990 and was known as being very active out on the streets. I believe he was married to one of the Rochas, which is an infamous NF crime family. Eventually, Paki got popped by the feds on a RICO case and was given BOP number 02883-748, where he did time with the big homies at Florence ADX Max in Colorado. So I'll have to stop right there. I hate to leave you hanging, but don't worry, I'll be back soon with more fire content for you on the history of the Nuestra Familia over the last 60 years or so. For now, this is Gabe Morales signing off for Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians. If I go forward, follow me. If I hesitate, push me. If they may kill me, avenge me. If I am a traitor, kill me.
Gangsters, cops, and politicians, get ready to rock on a mission. Each one of us shares our own vision.